It was March of 2002 to be exact. There were several reasons why I remember this trip. It was 6 months after 9/11 occurred, but we were on a trip as a team of 19 students and one faculty advisor from Messiah College on a mission trip to Northern Ireland. We were staying in a town called Dundrum, right outside Belfast. And on this trip, I remember some specific things. One being that halfway through the trip, we found out that the United States had declared war. It was the Middle East War that began during that time, or the War on Terror, as the president had called it. We were worried while on this trip because we thought, are we going to be able to get home? Is it safe? We as Americans, are we going to be targeted? But we were college students, so we didn't worry that much. Our trip went on as planned, and Saturday morning rolled around at 6 a.m., and we began our venture to the airport and our 48-hour trip home. We got to the airport and boarded our plane. The plan was that we would fly from Belfast to Heathrow Airport in London, and then from there we would fly all the way to Philadelphia Airport and then make a short 1.5 hour trip from Philly back to Messiah College. Sounds easy enough, but it didn't turn out that way. So we get to the airport quite early, and we board our plane in Belfast, and we begin our flight to Heathrow. Our flight was a little bit delayed, but nothing too concerning. Then we landed in Heathrow Airport, and we sat on the tarmac for a long time. We finally got to our gate, and we got off the plane and quickly rushed to catch our connecting flight. But the plane wasn't there, and it had already left. So what do we do now? 19 of us, stuck in one of the biggest airports in the world. How are we going to get home? It's not like we had money. We were college students. What were we going to do? I remember I was one of the team leaders at the time, and myself and our faculty advisor, who was, he wasn't that much older than me, maybe 7, 8 years older than me, but was really brilliant, talented guy, and was the right person to have on this trip for a situation like this. He and I spent a significant amount of time at the desk of the airline that we missed the connecting flight with. Well, apparently that airline and the airline we flew into Heathrow were different airlines. And so they weren't responsible that we missed our flight, and the other airline wasn't responsible that we missed our flight. So we're stuck. Now, the one good thing is that the airline we were flying home with said our tickets were still valid even though we missed our flight. So they would still provide us safe passage back home. The question was when. And like I mentioned, this was early Saturday morning. We had arrived at Heathrow Airport after our flight, or I guess late in the morning. And our faculty advisor, Chad, and I spent hours at the desk of this airline. And we asked the simple question, how can we get our group of 19 home? What flight do you have available for us? Their response was simple. We don't have a flight that has 19 seats available on it. Not for at least 2 weeks. You see, we were on our spring break as a college, but Easter was coming up. And so all of the travel had been more heightened because of that time of year. In addition, with everything going on with war, it changed things. So how were we going to get home before 2 weeks was up? We had school starting on Monday. Not that some of us cared as much as others. But we had to get back, right? We didn't have a place to stay. We were in a country on a layover with no place to stay, no money. So fortunately, the airline granted us some ticket vouchers to feed us for the day, but we still had nowhere to sleep. So we slept on the airport floor after traveling around the airport with our baggage and maybe got 2 or 3 hours of sleep. We got up early the next morning and we headed to the main desk of our airline, and they had said, "Come back the next morning and come back with some information ready to go." And so we did. But on top of that, Chad, our faculty advisor, was thinking ahead. So he had us prioritize a list of people in which we needed to send back home sooner rather than later. So we prioritized students that had tests on Monday or Tuesday, or big projects, or those that were doing internships or student teaching or nursing practicums and things like that. And so we prioritized our list of 19, and Chad and I both agreed that there wasn't a chance we were leaving the country until everybody else did. So we were 18 and 19. He, being the supervisor, got to be number 19 and told me that I didn't have a choice, which was fine. So we, in the midst of that, also pulled all of the knowledge of everybody on our team and made a list of anybody we knew at any airport on the Eastern Seaboard. So in the chance that we had last minute got a chance to fly into Charlotte, North Carolina, how are we going to get home? Maybe there was somebody on the ground that could meet us at the airport with a rental van, or 5 friends and their minivans, and were willing to drive us back to college. So we had every airport covered, every major airport, from I think all the way from Boston down to Atlanta, with a list of names and phone numbers. So we arrive at this airline desk, and the airline official says to us, "Look, our higher-ups have been meeting all night about your group, trying to figure out what we can do. And so this is what we've decided. We're going to put all 19 of you at the front of our standby list for every flight until you're all sent home. Now keep in mind, we don't have any open seats on any flight for the next 2 weeks, but we're going to put you at the top of that list, because if any seat opens up, we're going to put you on that." And so we said, "That's fine, but you have to, you can only send us in groups of 2 at minimum, because we didn't want people traveling by themselves. So groups of 2. So if you only have 1 empty seat, send it to the next group." And so they said, "Okay, that's fair. But keep in mind, it might be 2 or 3 days before we can get your whole group out." Like, okay. This was Sunday morning. We were already 24 hours in. We get to the first gate. It was a flight to New York City specifically, and it was why am I drawing a blank on the name of the airport? But we knew that, all right, New York City, we can do this. So we're standing there, all of us, 19 of us, with our bags, and I have a list in my hand of the first few people all the way down to number 19. And here was the biggest difficulty. We didn't have cell phones. we didn't have a way of contacting people outside of, there were kiosks where you could have temporary internet access. So I had coordinated with the organization helping us back home that I was going to email them and pass along information, and they were going to make calls on our behalf. And they were just going to call and say, "Hey, look, um, we have a group of people. So and so. They gave us your name. They're on this team. Can you help us out?" And we were going to board people on a plane, and they were going to fly 6, 7, 8 hours back to the United States. And all they knew was when they got off the plane to head down to baggage, and when they find their baggage, look for somebody that was holding a sign that says Messiah College. And that person is going to have more information for you. Talk about a leap of faith, right? There were a lot of things that had to go right for this to happen. So back to where we were standing in line in the standby line, and the woman at the desk says, "Hey, I just want you to know, it looks like we're going to have a few empty seats on this plane." You know, God, that's an answer to prayer. All right, God, that's great. God, would you be willing to help us and put 5 people on this flight, because that would be great. God, I really want 5 people because I'm concerned about the first 3 people getting back by themselves. But I know that in the group of that had the number 5 person is somebody that can make sure that they'll get home. So the woman comes out with some tickets, and she said, "All right, great news. I have some seats." And she reads off 5 names. And like right there in the airport, I'm about to drop to my knees. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like, God, you answered my prayer. We're getting 5 people on the first flight. What are the odds of that? God, this is clearly, your hand in this situation. And I'm getting ready to run over to the kiosk to email our contact. And in the midst of that, the woman says, we have a few more empty seats. Like, what? Are you crazy? You have more empty seats? No way that this is possible. She reads off 5 more names. But here was the problem. She wasn't following the order. The next 5 names were numbers 11 through 15. She skipped 6 through 10. And I'm about to start arguing with this lady when another person comes around the corner and reads off 5 more names, numbers 6 through 10. So we went from not sure if we're going to get anybody on this first flight to the first 15 people on our team getting ready to board this flight. So Chad and I are quickly sharing information with the team, saying, "All right, you're going to be heading to New York City. When you get off, head to baggage claim. Look for somebody with a Messiah College label there, a sign, and they're going to have more information from you. We're going to get you back home safely." While we're giving this information out, another agent comes back. "I have 4 more seats." And so I'm a math person, so in my head I'm doing the math. Wait, 15 plus 4 is 19. So all of the planes were booked for 2 weeks. And you decided you would help us by putting us to the front of the standby list, but still said it's going to be 2 to 3 days to get you all out. And there just happened to be 19, and only 19 seats open up on the first flight. I don't know what had to happen for that, but it was clearly something was involved in this, because that's too much of a coincidence. 19 of us boarded that plane. And I emailed our contact and I said, "Hey, I'm about to get on this plane. See what you can do. We're all going to be in New York City. It's a little bit further than Philadelphia. See if you can get us a ride home." So we board the plane. The best part, the bottom 9 people on the list bumped up to business class. Oh, what a way to fly home from London. So fast forward, we land in New York. I run to a kiosk and I check my email and nothing. So I call and I reach out to some people and say, "Hey, any chance you heard from the organization?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we did. That's awesome. Do you think you guys can come pick us up? Are you on your way?" And they're like, "No, we just got out of church. We're at the pizza place eating pizza." Oh, okay. Do you think you could come pick us up? And I hear talking, yeah, we'll head over here. Okay, and so like, yeah, we'll come pick you up. We'll be there in about 6 hours. Okay, so we're waiting for 6 hours in the airport. They finally get there. They pick us up, two 15-passenger vans, and a luggage a trailer behind, and we began our journey back to Messiah. Midnight, Sunday night, Eastern time. That's when we pulled into college, and I remember walking into my dorm, and it was like just after midnight, and my roommate and I, who was also on the trip, we just kind of threw our bags on the floor, and we showered because we were disgusting, and we climbed into bed, and we were just like, wow, that was the longest 48 hours. We were just so tired, but we made it home. We made it home, and it was a great trip. So that was the 48-hour journey.